If you've ever been a fan of the Attack on Titan series, I'm sure there's that one moment where you imagined how it will feel like to use the ODM gear and zip around hacking and slashing everything in front of you. Well, in Withering Waves you can do just that with Brant at the cost of 80 pulls, if you win your 50-50. If you're new here on the channel, welcome to Brant's character breakdown video, which belongs to the character breakdown series playlist on my channel, where I build and test your favorite resonators for quite some time to give you tips and tricks on how you can use them more effectively. In today's video, I'm going to be covering a brief pros and cons of having Brant on your account, the basics of his kit, tips and tricks that you can use, best teams to play him with, his best build, and finally a detailed step-by-step rotation breakdown for you guys. If this video proves helpful or enjoyable in any way, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon because it helps me out more than you know. Before we get into the pros and cons, here's a quick showcase of the rotations I'll cover very shortly. Keep in mind that my Changli is not fully built because I just got her on my account, and Brant is on Overture as a temporary alternative. Here we go. For his pros and cons, Brant is considered a super hybrid character because he can fulfill multiple roles in your team building, including keeping your team alive with shields if you need it, healing your entire team with his basic attacks and liberation, decent damage with his forte skill, which can hit around 200k damage in a hypercarry team with Sanhua while running Overture, and extremely versatile when it comes to team building because he can be slotted into many teams where the other DPS uses the fusion attribute or skills of resonance skill damage. In terms of concerto energy regeneration, Brant does not even need an intro skill. All you need is his liberation, full basic attack sequence, and then his forte skill to fully fill his concerto energy, and then you can quickly swap to another character to do damage. This opens up the possibility of comfortably running double DPS team compositions, and the emphasis should be on comfortably due to the following reasons. His double DPS teammates like Carlotta depends on her intro skill to regenerate forte stacks and also helps regenerate resonance energy as well, since she depends heavily on her liberation to do majority of her damage. Brant does not need the intro for resonance energy regeneration because of his energy regen scaling, which helps him get his liberation back up very quickly. So in double DPS team compositions, you can always give the intro from your healer to the other DPS character on your team, helping them recover forte stacks and resonance energy. For his cons, if you're going to be using him in a Hypercarry or Quickswap team compositions, you need to be good at dodging in midair since you'll be using his midair basic attacks more often, but aside from that you should be good. Now let's get into the basics of his kit. His ground basic attacks are nothing special, but the only thing you should keep in mind is that if you complete the full sequence of his midair basic attacks and spam your basic attack button when he lands on the ground, Brant will zip around the enemy and perform a wide slash animation, as you guys can see right here. This can be used to end his normal midair basic attack combos to fully regenerate his forte stacks. For his midair combos, if you spam your basic attack button while Brant is in midair, he'll perform 4 basic attack stages. This is stage 1, this is stage 2, this is stage 3, and this is stage 4. Every time you release your basic attack button after each stage, Brant will do a flip shot, which indicates that the basic attack stage has ended and it resets your midair dodge attempt. What this basically means is that you can dodge in midair after every stage of his midair basic attacks. The full combo should regenerate about half of his forte stacks if you're not in the aflame state provided by his liberation, but when you pop his liberation, you should gain full forte stacks when Brant does the ground basic attack finisher after the 4th stage of his basic attacks. If you hold your basic attack button while in midair, Brant's second basic attack stage 2 will follow up right after the first stage, and after that, the first stage of his midair charged attacks will follow up shortly. If you keep holding your basic attack button, Brant will perform basic attack stage 2 and then follow up with midair charged attack stage 2. After that, you can simply spam your basic attack button to perform the normal basic attack stage 3 and stage 4. The midair charged attacks will be very useful in his quickswap rotations that I'll cover shortly, so be sure to keep in mind. If you press a skill, Brant will flip backwards and shoot the enemy. It regenerates a decent amount of concerto energy and forte stacks, but the main purpose of his skill is to provide an alternative method of going in midair to start his basic attack combos, and it can be used to end his rotations as well. Brant also has a special forte called Theatrical Moment that increases his attack based on his energy regen, and it caps at 280 to provide 1560 attack. If you use his liberation, Theatrical Moment is replaced with My Moment that increases his attack much further and caps at 280 energy regen to provide 2600 attack. For his forte bar, if you fill 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%, Brant will heal all teammates including himself, which scales off his energy regen. If he casts his liberation, it will send Brant in midair to start his basic attacks, healing everyone in the team, and doubles the amount of forte stacks that Brant can regenerate with his basic attacks. Keep in mind that you can use his liberation in between his midair combos, as you guys can see right here. An intro skill will also fill 25% of his forte stacks. When you have full forte stacks, press your skill button to use his forte skill, which will drop an anchor on the enemy, dealing massive damage. This will regenerate a shield for your entire team as well, which increases survivability, especially when facing holograms. That pretty much sums up his kit, so let's get into his tips and tricks. The first one we'll cover is related to his Hypercarry rotations. If you want to rotate in a way that Brant uses just one forte skill per rotation as a Hypercarry, your teammates' abilities will still be on cooldown because Brant's damage window is very short, which lasts for about 10 to 12 seconds. So in order to dish out the most damage in a Hypercarry team, we'll be relying on 3 full normal basic attack combos and 2 intros from Sanwa to Brant to increase the basic attack amplification buff uptime, and this is made possible because of Sanwa's incredible concerto efficiency and Brant's quick resonance energy regeneration. This is how you can do the most damage in a Brant Hypercarry team composition to nuke the enemy twice in one rotation. More on this in the rotation breakdown section of this video. The second tip is related to quickswaps, which involves animation cancelling. Brant can literally stay in midair indefinitely if the previous character like Changli was already in midair. So the trick to generate forte stacks on Brant and Changli at the same time is to start Brant's midair charged attacks, since it has a longer animation and it has more hits to regenerate forte stacks. Swap to Changli to use her skill, which can be used in midair, and then swap back to Brant, which will reset his basic attack sequence so you can use his midair charged attacks again. Go back to Changli to use True Sight's charge and use her skill, which can be done in midair, and then repeat the whole process once again. That's basically how the Changli quickswap tech works. The ability to fully utilize their kit in midair is why Changli and Brant are inseparable when it comes to quickswap gameplay. The third tip to keep in mind is that Brant can perform 2 basic attacks in midair if it doesn't connect with the enemy, one before a midair dodge and another one after a midair dodge. This can help you close the gap between you and your enemy if you're dealing with high-speed moving targets like Thundering Mephis, or help restart his midair combos if the first stage does not connect with the enemy. Now let's get into his team building. For Hypercarry, I recommend Sanwa as a sub DPS to amplify his midair basic attacks and forte skill damage, since they scale off basic attack damage. If you don't have his weapon, stick with Shorekeeper for the crit rate buff so that his forte skill can crit most of the time. For double DPS, your team building will mostly be influenced by his outro skill, which amplifies fusion damage and resonance skill damage. I recommend Carlotta, Spectral Rover, Jisha, and Encore. For quickswap teams, the go-to partner will be Changli, as I previously explained in the tips and tricks section of this video. Now let's get into his build. For the weapons, if you don't have his signature, go for Overture because of the energy regen substat. If you don't have that, it'll be a bit difficult to build Brant, but it's not impossible. You can go for 33311 if you have Red Spring or Emerald of Genesis, but Red Spring should take a higher priority because of the basic attack buff from the second passive. All the 3 costs will be energy regen, and the 1 cost will be attack percentage. Keep in mind that you will still need about 46% energy regen region from substats to proc the tide-breaking courage set in addition to crit rate and crit damage substats. If you're using Overture or his signature weapon, go with 43311 with the tide-breaking courage set, where the 4 cost will be crit rate or crit damage depending on what you're lacking. The 2-3 cost will be energy regen and the 1 cost will be attack. For his talent priority, focus on his Forte circuit, basic attacks, and then his liberation. Now let's get into his rotations. I'll be covering Brant, Hypercarry, and Quickswap rotations for now, but I'll cover all his rotations in different double DPS team comps very soon in separate videos, so be sure to keep that in mind. Let's begin with the Hypercarry rotation using Sanhua as his sub DPS. Here's the build I'm currently running on Sanhua and Brant. Here's a simple graphical representation of what you need to do. We first begin by using Shopkeeper's skill, swap to Sanhua and use our liberation. Using Sanhua's liberation early will allow us to use it twice per rotation. Use her Forte heavy attack, but use her skill as soon as she vanishes. If you can't manage this, just use her skill and then Forte heavy attack. Swap to Brant and use his liberation. Using it early will allow us to use it twice as well in one rotation. Do the full basic attack sequence, go back to Shopkeeper and do basic attacks to regenerate Forte stacks and consume it with her heavy attack, but you can cancel the animation with a dash as you guys can see right here. Use her liberation when you have at least 75% of her concerto energy, echo skill, and intro with Sanhua. Sanhua should get full concerto after the intro, so intro with Brant. The intro should fully fill Brant's Forte stacks, so use his Forte skill and end it with his normal skill to regenerate Forte stacks. Now intro with Sanhua and spam her basic attacks but cancel the last animation with her liberation. Use her Forte heavy attack and skill. Again, if you can't manage this, just use her skill and then use her Forte heavy attack to detonate the ice. Now intro with Brant, use her liberation, and just spam the normal basic attacks. Once the Forte skill becomes available, use it and end it with his skill. Now intro with Showkeeper and repeat the rotation once again. The only difference in the subsequent rotations is that you need to use Brant's full meter basic attacks without his liberation, since it will be on cooldown. After Sanhua's liberation, Forte heavy attack and skill. So when you intro to Brant from Sanhua, just spam your basic attacks until you get the Forte skill. Use it and intro with Sanhua to prepare another intro to Brant to prolong the basic attack buff uptime. After the intro, Brant can now use his liberation and spam his basic attacks to get another Forte skill, which will do a much bigger damage. For the Quickswap team, I'll be using Verena because of her concerto efficiency. Here's the build I'm currently running on my Changli. We first begin with Verena's liberation and use her skill. Swap to Changli to use her skill, which procs the Molten Rift's full set buff, but as soon as she lands on the ground, use her echo skill. You can then cancel the animation by swapping back to Verena and spam her basic attacks to get one Forte stack. Echo skill, jump, basic attacks, and intro with Changli. This part is very important. Do not press Changli's basic attack here to use the true side charge because it will go to waste. Use your liberation instead, but keep holding your basic attack button while the liberation animation is ongoing, and Changli will use her Forte heavy attack. You can see that we still have the true side state here. Swap to Brant, use a skill and liberation. Now hold your basic attack button to begin the charged attack animation, and as soon as it begins, swap to Changli and she will immediately use her true side charge. After that, use her skill and swap back to Brant for another mid-air charged attack. Swap to Changli again for another true side charge and skill. Now back to Brant for the last charged attack and swap to Changli for the last true side charge, which should fully regenerate her concerto energy. Now intro with Brant, use her Forte skill and echo skill. Intro with Changli, plunge and use her echo skill. You can see that we have Brant's buff right here, which can make Changli do more damage, so ultra buffs are not useless in Quickswap teams. Use Changli's Forte heavy attack, Liberation, and another Forte heavy attack. Now swap back to Verena, spam basic attack for 1 Forte stack, Liberation, skill, echo skill, and intro with Changli. You can now use True Sight charge after the intro, use your skill, and swap to Brant to use his Liberation, mid-air charged attack, and swap to Changli for True Sight charge and skill as we did earlier. Your main goal is to get 3 Forte stacks using animation cancels before you use Brant's Forte skill and give the intro to Changli to do more damage. Overall, I'm really impressed with Brant's kit and how he's synergized with Changli, which has become my new favorite team to play with on a daily basis. Expect more videos on rotation breakdowns for Changli and Brant teams very soon on the channel. If YouTube got it right, you should like this video that pops up on your screen. So be sure to give it a watch and join our Discord community if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. Link will be in the video description. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.